You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the SDSU Football Podcast. I am Andre Hagverdian, and with me always is Paul Garrison. In this episode, Paul and I had the opportunity to catch up with two former Aztec players who finished their football careers this past year, tight end Conor Mcbride and wide receiver Elijah Cody. Hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Our first guest is Conor Mcbride, who spent the past 4 years on the Aztecs football team after spending 1 year at Saddleback College. McBride played fullback before transitioning to tight end in his later years. Welcome, Conor, to the SDSU Football Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the opportunity. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man.
Glad.
So you were a star running back in high school. You had a school record, it's 777 touches, close to 5,000 yards, 45 touchdowns, all-city offensive MVP your senior season, 4-year varsity player at Woodbridge High in Irvine. Take us back to the glory days. What was that like for you in high school?
Well, first off, I appreciate you going back and learning that. I feel like a lot of people, especially in college, college coaches in general, but they don't really know that about me. So appreciate that. I tell my close friends about that. Some people remember, but appreciate that. Thank you. I played football since I was 7 years old. So 16 years basically, or 17. I don't know. I'm usually better at math, but I'm 23. So I've played my whole life, always played like most people who end up in college and playing at the top level. I've always been the star of the team, played either quarterback or running back at a young age. Quarterbacks usually ran the ball. Ended up having a choice whether to go to a Trinity League school such as Mater Dei that we all know, Orange Lutheran, but decided to go to Woodbridge High School in Irvine, which is my home school where I was slated to go, where all my friends were. Also, it's the same high school that both my parents went to. A lot of my aunts and uncles. So I went to Woodbridge my first year, played a little bit of varsity during CIF. Didn't get much action, but making to varsity was huge in general. I was happy about that. And then from the next 3 years on, I played running back, ended up getting the bulk of the carries. We did like a wildcat. So basically just snapped it straight to me. Defense knew exactly what the plays were, but basically just ran it downhill, like 32 carries a game during league. I ended up finding a lot of success, did what I love, which was running the ball, and had a great 3 years there. And I was glad I made that decision to go there. A lot harder to get recruited and everything else, but I'm glad I made it and was able to enjoy high school football with my friends in my hometown.
Nice. And so after high school, you played 1 season at Saddleback College. How did you end up there, and what was that experience like?
So throughout high school, like all of us, I always tried my hardest to get a scholarship. That was my biggest goal. Never reached that goal, so I found it pretty frustrating throughout high school. I had good numbers, all that sort of stuff, but not many running backs that fit my mold or fit my type in college, and I learned to understand that. So coming out of college, or in my junior and senior year of high school, I didn't get any offers, had a bunch of preferred walk-ons, and I never really found that good enough for me. I don't know. I might have been a little too big-headed at that time, but I was still talking to SDSU at that time. SDSU has always been a school that I've very much liked, not only for football, but for just the social aspect. I'm from Orange County. It's close. It's fun. A bunch of older friends and stuff that would go there. So I ended up playing a year at Saddleback. I went down to like 210 pounds, played running back. It was more of a spread offense, which is truly still not my style. Played behind a really good running back named Mari DiMercato. He went to TCU. So I didn't get much action. And once I spent a year at Saddleback, I decided I really wanted to go to a 4-year school, play at the next level, enjoy myself, and, get away from home. I love my home, but wanted to go away for the first time. And so I contacted Coach McGarry that used to be here, who was talking to me in high school, said, is there any way I can join this year as a preferred walk-on, which I was totally okay with. Got in, was a qualifier from getting pretty good grades in high school. And so I made it to San Diego State after 1 year of Saddleback.
Now, high school experience too, 777 touches, only 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you were ridiculous. I definitely got to get on the huddle, man, and see you.
Thank you.
It was nuts. That was great. Everybody should absolutely check it out because it's fun football. It's, again, the same thing. He's not the prototype guy that you're used to running around, but he was effective, bruising, just no one could catch him either. It was pretty wild.
Thank you.
But SSU, man, they've had a ton of success with walk-ons. Why do you think that the Aztecs have been able to find so many different walk-ons who can contribute on the team? And, I'll put you, into that group, obviously.
Yeah. Obviously, I think that SDSU, I know when I first went there and didn't have an official tour, but like I met a couple of coaches and talked to them, they explained to me that walk-ons are treated the same as someone who's scholarshiped. And, I thought that was maybe just what they were saying, but it was pretty much true. I mean, in a lot of the aspects, meals wise, clothing wise, everything wise, walk-ons are treated the exact same way. Scholarship players are given as much crap as walk-on players are. And other than the fact that you're not getting a stipend and getting your school paid for, being a walk-on is, you feel like you're actually part of the team. And I know some programs aren't like that. Also, I feel like you get pretty equal opportunities to show what you can do during fall camp and more spring ball. And so I think they've found a really good success in allowing walk-ons to, a good thing I'd like to say is that like SDSU, you have to make sure that you want to play. It's not an easy thing. And I feel like walk-ons, as many walk-ons as we've had that's been successful, we've had a lot that quit. And so those who quit or the ones that make it through are the ones that are truly built for it and truly decide that they can actually handle the mental toughness, everything that we always talk about. And so I think those walk-ons that get through the program will end up successful because it just shows that they can make it through.
Now, confession time.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have to do when we're writing our previews and things like that is we kind of stalk you on social media, man.
Yeah.
And not only on social media, but talking to multiple parents, other teammates, they talk about how great of a person and a teammate that you are. Why was that role so important to you? And are you as fun as you look like on Instagram?
Well, first of all, it's gonna make me tear up a little bit. I very much like that comment. Thank you. I did read one of the articles, I think it was the beginning of before the season, even 2 years ago, but what someone stated, I don't know who wrote it, that something about that I was very well liked on Instagram and all the other such. I don't know, it was one of you two that wrote it, but I never knew how you guys found that, but I very much appreciate that public profile on Instagram. But I'd probably say like, you go to a job interview or something like that, you always get asked what your biggest skill is. And I'd always say my biggest skill is being a people person and being a social guy. Like I absolutely love hanging out with friends, going out, meeting people, whether it's social media or in person. I've always been like that type of guy that just wants to make an influence on people. And that's something that obviously throughout football was something that I always found that was like it was always a challenge to me, and it was always something that I always loved doing, was being there for my teammates. And football players a lot of the time are always like hard-nosed, like meatheads that aren't always that's the stereotype. They're not all like that, but I was always that guy that was nice and that would try to like back up my teammates and be there for them and make sure that they're okay on and off the field. And it's just, I've always wanted to have an influence in people's lives and be that kind guy that likes to have fun, likes to make memories for my friends. And so yeah, I would hope I am just as fun as people say. I mean, I'm roommates with Elijah Cody, Dan Bellinger, Jesse Matthews, old player Justin Yee. So, I mean, if you ever get them on, which I have a feeling you might, I know you already had Dan, but yeah, you go ahead and ask them. But yeah, I've always been that social guy who likes to make plans, likes to make people happy and smile.
Well, we have Elijah Cody coming up next, so we'll definitely have to ask him about you.
Definitely ask him. It was funny. I was actually lifting with him earlier at the Arc. It's strange. We haven't been to the Arc much in our 4 years here. And so now we're finally mixing with the fraternities and the Greek life. And so it's definitely a different vibe there. But him and I were lifting earlier and I'm like, yeah, I have my podcast today. He's like, what time? And I was like, it's 4:30. He's like, dude, I'm right after you. We had no idea. Yeah, it's a funny story. I'm glad he's on here. Good guy.
Speaking of the Arc, man, I just going to the basketball games recently and seeing like the new Arc in like the double decker. It looks fabulous.
It's very nice. I mean, the Arc that we had the first 2 years was always pretty nice. We enjoyed it. But yeah, it is very nice. This one's like state of the art. It's like everything's nice. It's really packed, which is kind of hard to do sometimes. It's different than lifting in the weight room. But yeah, it's really nice. We're waiting on the basketball course to be finished because that's our favorite thing. But it's definitely a good thing.
So SDSU's kind of had a reputation of taking high school larger running backs and turning them into NFL type fullbacks, right? Mm-hmm. You come in as a fullback. There's numerous other fullbacks like you on the team. After that first year, the offense changes to more of a spread. by 2020, all the other fullbacks left. Why did you stick around?
Well, so I got to SDSU and I absolutely loved the school. Loved my teammates, loved my housing situation, the social aspect. Leaving SDSU was really never an option for me, nor was like actually quitting. Because, at that point, you get moved to a tight end position I've never played. I've always played running back. That's just who I was. So it took me a couple of years to get used to even being a fullback. Finally got used to it. I was the next one up, and unfortunately life happens and we switched the offense. So, it was definitely like hard as a transition, but it was always something I chose, that I came here and I very much liked the team and I created relationships that I always have and that I didn't want to lose. And I loved being a part of the SDSU football team. It was just something that I would never take for granted or get rid of. And so I never even really had a question on whether or not I'd continue to play or not.
And then you mentioned, moving to tight end, and you were part of the tight end room last year. There's, with Bellinger gone and yourself gone, there's an opportunity for some of the younger guys to step in. There's 5 guys from last year's team. We're wondering if you can give us a quick scouting report on them, starting with Jay Rudolph. What is one thing they do well, one thing they need to work on?
Okay, well, first of all, absolutely love the guys. I had a great experience the last couple of years with the tight ends, and I didn't get on the field much, and I wasn't always like the most, prolific tight end that wise, but I always had a great time, like, being a mentor, being the older brother to all of them. No one likes being called their son, but they were my sons, and so I love the group in general. But actual football wise, Jay is a natural. He was so good his freshman year, his true freshman year. Came out as a redshirt freshman last year and killed it. He is already Coach Savai calls him the standard. He was teaching me things on the field, and he just has that hard nose that just wants to hit people, and he's got exactly what he wants. He doesn't care. He'll put his head down and whatever. Hopefully next year he gets to show a little bit more of his actual skills of being able to catch the ball and being versatile, which is obviously what we hope all our tight ends get. And then we have, Cam Harpool, true wide receiver at heart, but he's gained like 20 pounds this year already. Great guy, but he is such a good route runner, such good hands. And he's got all the build except for he just has to learn to block. And that's the hardest thing you learn when you first get here at a D1 level. He learns to block. He'll be a great true wide tight end. Gus McGee, that's actually my true little brother, sometimes immature kid, but he's a great guy. Tall, has the build. They hoped for him to be the next, Dan Bellinger, and he's just got to learn. He's still at a young age. All these guys are 4 or 5 years younger than I am. So a lot of them had to go through their first true winter. And so I think he'll be in good hands. You just got to stay focused. JP, also a true natural. He's a bigger guy, but you should have seen him in scout sometimes making catches that just mossing people left and right. He's got to stay focused. We have, who else do we have? I should know all this.
Aaron Green. How can I forget Aaron Green? He's going to call me out later if he listens to this. Love Aaron Green as well. If you saw him freshman year to sophomore year, that every single coach talks about his transformation of going from 275, joking around about him being a left tackle to being looking good as a tight end. Everyone wants to look like the Kothe Warings or Daniel Bellingers. We always can't, but he's completely transformed his body. He was winning a bunch of races, and he has the physical attributes, and he can catch the ball, he can block. He's just got to sometimes stay level-headed. And I think as long as he gets the game mentally, I think he's in good hands. He's a fast learner and everything else. So I think the tight end room, I know we have an addition of, give me his name. Mark Redmond,
which I never really met personally, but he went to CDM, which is, we played them in the league when I was younger, Corona Del Mar in high school, and they were always the best team. But I know he was heavily recruited. And I think they're in really good hands. Coach Savai is a great coach, cares for us more off the field than he does on the field. So I think tight ends will continue to be the strength of our offense.
Well, we should wrap up the show. That was perfect. The staff, you mentioned that walk-ons are treated the same throughout, and I'm guessing that extends to the senior leadership team. Being part of that senior leadership group, how does that work that you all are this last year, you were the leaders of the program, in a very special way, but just, could you give us a little insight into how that works?
Yeah. So no matter what, as a senior, you're listed as a leader. We have senior meetings once or twice a week. We'll get a text coming like 10 minutes earlier before our actual team meetings, and Coach Hoke speaks to everyone directly. Not even just a few captains. He'll literally call out one person's name. You always get nervous about when he's going to call your name out. But just as a senior, it's as much of just you're being a senior and you're a leader, and that people look up to you just because you've been there for a couple of years. They ask you questions about what's coming next, how's winter, how's it get when fall camp is over. And last year we obviously had a bigger senior group, so I think it was a little bit easier having seniors come back. But I also think that we just had really well experienced seniors last year that played a lot. And I want to hype up technically my incoming class. I came a year late, but when I came in with everybody, I was training with them in summer and all that other stuff. But I think that we had a really good class. They ranked us pretty high. We had Cameron Thomas, Daniel Bellinger, Matt Ariza, all of us were pretty successful. So I think we had adding the other senior group, we just had a really well experienced and a lot of skin in the game, and just everyone knew exactly how the program was run, and how Coach Hall wanted us to play, how Coach Hoke wanted us to play. And everyone was just a great example to everyone. No one was like too nervous to call people out. Everyone was respectful, but was like being able to call people out when they wanted to. So I think it was just like a really large group that was able to work together.
Yeah, you're a little humble there on what the 2018 group was able to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Max Olson, from the Athletic, just re-ranked the recruiting classes for 2018. And he said that the Aztecs class was the 11th in the whole country, which is, ridiculously special, right? Why did that class, that group, those men that were part of it, why did they reach the levels that they did?
I think the biggest thing is just like coming in. I think we were the strongest mentally, and people will disagree with me on this sometimes, but the last couple of years that have come in, summer workouts, when you first get here, you spend a whole summer period by yourself, just the freshmen, just the incoming transfers. Don't spend it with the other teammates at all. You don't even meet the older teammates until fall camp. Imagine how scary that is. It's just, you see them by, and it's just a different experience. They haven't done that in the last couple of years. That's not to blame or anything, but I just feel like we were taught to be so strong mentally. And I think that we have a natural aspect of just the players and the leaders that we have in that class were so strong mentally and took everything so seriously. I always flex this, but like when I first got here, Daniel Bellinger and Cam Thomas were both my lifting partners when I first got here. And we always bring that up. And I now got two, NFL draft picks that I worked out with, and Daniel Bellinger is one of my best friends. But I just think that everyone was so good mentally and knew exactly what they had to do, and just didn't get too frustrated, and were always there to work hard and enjoyed themselves in life and at school and stuff, but we're always serious when it needed to be. So I think that's why our class was just so strong mentally.
Now, San Diego State has a new stadium opening up this year, 2022. With the new stadium, the money generated from it, the buzz, the atmosphere, there are expectations that the Aztecs are going to get higher profile recruits, some of those 4-star, maybe even 5-star recruits they haven't necessarily gotten. What do you think? Do you buy that argument? And what do you think the program needs to do to achieve that?
I really do. And I, since I've been here, I've become a lot bigger of an SDSU fan. I mean, a lot of people just go here and don't really become fans, but I'm absolutely in love with SDSU and everything it has. And, a couple of years ago, even basketball wise, when you're 28-0, ranked 4th in the nation, I lived in, it's called Piedra del Sol, right above Viejas. One of the best years of my life. And, I went to every single game, and I've always been able to get into the school spirit and stuff. And so the last couple of years of just doing so well, football, basketball, all other sports, obviously football and basketball are more seen in the media and stuff. So it obviously attracts everyone. Also the fact that we have a brand new stadium, which I'm very jealous, comes the year after me, but I'll definitely be at the games next year. My teammates better give me tickets. already shook a couple of hands on that one. So, but yeah, I think I definitely do buy into the hype, and I really hope that at one point we get into the Pac-12 or something like that. Other teams aren't too scared, but you're in San Diego. I mean, I think there's no better place to be, let alone Southern California in general. But SDSU brings so much, whether it's great sports, great weather, great looking people, a fun, exciting, nightlife. And there's just so much to it. I think that we're only growing. Campus is growing. There's different brand new sophomore apartments every single time I go, different restaurants. They're like renovating everything. And so I think hopefully if we continue to be a good team, get higher recruits, I think it's just exponentially we'll just keep growing and keep doing better. So I do buy into that.
So speaking of social media stalking, Paul wasn't the only one that did some stalking. Yeah. Your LinkedIn profile header says, looking to change the world through leading others. Why did you write that on your header, and what does that mean? What are your plans, for your future?
Yeah. Yeah, I came up with that myself, so I was pretty proud about that. But thank you for noticing it. But yes, as well, as much as a people person, I've always been a natural leader, and I too, as somebody else, want to be a teacher. And I decided that, I think right when I got to college, I plan on being a high school history teacher. I majored here at SDSU. It's actually called social science, single subject teaching. So it's basically a social science major, but you take a couple prerequisites that get you into, some observation hours and other things of being a teacher. So I plan to be a high school history teacher. I still got some more schooling left to do. I actually originally wanted to do my credential program here at SDSU during my last football season. Went to a couple meetings, found out it just wouldn't work with student teaching and playing football my last year. So I picked up a minor in counseling and social change, something I very much care about. And I thought that I could use those skills for teaching. So I ended up doing that, graduating a semester later. And now I'm applying to different programs to get my single subject teaching credential, which will allow me to teach either middle school or high school. And it's going to be in history. And hopefully my number one is UCI, which will allow me to get my teaching credential and master's in 14 months. So that's my goal. And, it's just a job that I've learned over the last couple of years. My grandma's a teacher. She's told me nothing. Anyone who's told me is their teacher. Obviously people complain about pay sometimes, but if you really put it together, it's pretty good per hour. And more importantly, it's just a job that I found that I can actually enjoy, a job that I can actually love, rather than, just being forced to work for something for money. And it gives me the daily opportunity to do what I love, which is to, put an influence on people, change people's lives. I want to be a football coach as well. And I know football coaches and teachers have just such an influence on people, especially a football coach. You take kids when they come in at 12, 13 in high school, and you take them to their 17 or 18. You're like almost a second father figure to them. And I've just been so heavily influenced by teachers and those people in my life that I feel like it's something I can use my best skills and my most personal skills to use. And it's just something that I really look forward to. I'm really excited about it. And, it's great pension and some good retirement and some other things, thanks to the government. But yeah, so I plan on being a teacher and trying to change the world through leading others.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
As a family of educators, man, we need people like you in the business, man. That's great to hear.
Thanks a lot.
I got one more football related question before, transitioning. Andre was asking about, the 4 and 5 star recruits. If they had gotten 4 and 5 star recruits in 2018, Dan Bellinger, Cameron Thomas, 2-star recruits, there may not have been room for them. So how does state keep, I guess, that balance between going and getting, the guys with more hype in high school versus getting like the true passionate people who are going to get better as they go forward?
I think that's definitely a challenge. And what I really think about it, though, is I think our program does a really great job at you take in no matter who you take in, a higher recruit or a lower recruit. And like I mentioned earlier, the program is so hard and so physically and mentally taxing that no matter what, whether you're a high recruit or a low recruit, whoever makes it to the top and whoever ends up in that starting position or ends up there after 3 or 4 years is going to be the right person. And so I think no matter what, we even had higher recruits when we were younger, higher than Dan, higher than Cam, that, never even saw the field, never even didn't play, didn't make as much as big of an impact. And that's totally okay. But I just think, sometimes we've learned through watching the Super Bowl and NFL sport that like recruiting and stars and all that stuff is just so subjective on what type of player you are. It doesn't really show your hard work and the things that you do rather than your size, your speed, and sometimes your stats. So I think here at a school, I hope that they continue to keep balancing whether they take higher recruits, at-home recruits, and if they just continue the mindset and teaching of mental toughness, I think those who rise to the top are the ones that are the best players, such as Dan, Cam, Matt, everybody,
No, absolutely. And Andre, I can see it in your eyes. Conor cannot become your new co-host. All right. You're absolutely killing it, man. Got some rapid fire questions for you to wrap this up. You ready?
Right. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Let's see. I really like hamburgers and pasta. Too simple. I'd probably do like Greek food. Hero, right? That's how you say it, hero? There you go.
That's gyro.
It's gyro. You would know.
My bad.
No. I mean, Andre would know. So it's gyro.
Gyro, yeah. That is my favorite, though.
All right. Awesome.
In Greece, they say gyro.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then that makes a lot more sense. It's really good.
Yeah. And in the South County of, down Chula Vista, where I'm from, it's gyro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about
Wait. Let me take it back. Actually, in Greece, it's hero. I had it flipped. It's Hero.
Hey.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
I was wrong still, but I
had this conversation with someone recently and I flipped it. It's in Greece, it's Hero.
I get nervous every time I order it because I never know if I'm saying it right.
I might have to edit out the part where I said it wrrong.
No, you got to keep it.
No, there's no editing. I'm good.
All right.
It is so it's Hero.
Okay.
Hero. How about your favorite movie or TV show?
Let's do both. Favorite movie of all time, Forrest Gump. I think I also want to teach American history, so it goes through a lot of American history. I really like it. And then favorite, what was it? Favorite TV show? Friends, classic, or Friday Night Lights is a great TV show as well.
Nice. Friends has been. Did you watch it with Bellinger?
Yeah, Bellinger. Yeah, did you say that too?
Yeah, you said that. That was his.
Him and I would watch Friends and Shark Tank every single day, every morning. That's what we watch. That's fun.
Awesome. Musical artist or group?
Musical artist. I'd probably say, to go along with the hype of our current world, either Drake or Travis Scott. But my mom, shout out to my mom. It's a perfect time to give a shout out to my mom, Kathleen, amazing mother, has taught me a lot of more old school music and certain things like that. I really like American Pie, Don McLean, Bill Withers, certain things like that. So shout out to my mom. She's taught me a lot of older music that sometimes kids my age don't know.
Awesome. Who was your favorite professional athlete growing up or currently?
100%. I listened to one of the podcasts earlier, and I think that Segun said LeBron James, but 100% LeBron James. I think I like him more off the field than he is on the field, on the court, sorry. But yeah, I think he's just what he's done, not only on the court as an NBA player, but as a person in society and change that he tries to push and just be an example. I just think, when I was younger, I loved Kobe and I still do. And I'd always kind of, throw shade towards LeBron, but you can't get past the type of guy he is and the type of player he is. So LeBron James.
Thanks for listening to that earlier episode. It was good, right? It
was really good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Anyway, favorite hobby.
We were talking about this earlier, but I like shoes a lot, and you can. They can't see it, but in the Zoom camera, you kind of see the shoes in the background. And I'm surprised you didn't mention that when you talked about stalking my social media. I actually went viral on Twitter a couple years ago. I had like 700,000 likes, been seen by 35 million people. But anyways, I like shoes. I buy shoes, I wear them, and I also buy to resell shoes. So shoes are my hobby. Sounds like something that's it's kind of confusing to some people, but I make money off it, and it's something that I really like.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. Yeah. I just figure, we're trying to see the real person back behind the viral things,
There you go. Yeah.
But no, it was great. Great job, man. You did a fantastic interview. Good luck with everything. And, hopefully we can do this again soon. And as we move closer to the season and get your ideas about the 2022 team.
I'm always down for it. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Our second guest is Elijah Cody, who also spent the past 4 years on the Aztecs football team after coming to the Mesa out of high school in Las Vegas. The wide receiver enjoyed his most productive season in 2021, catching 31 passes for 418 yards. Welcome, Elijah, to the SDSU football podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So to get right to your current situation, you're not on the spring roster. You were potentially eligible to come back for a super senior season. Did you have the option to return, and why did you decide not to?
Yeah, I did have the option to return. I think I ultimately decided not to just because I don't know if I had the passion necessarily to take what it takes to do an off season. I felt like more of my passion aligned with coaching more so than playing. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Now, there is still a small part of me that wants to play, but I'm basically just want to move forward with coaching as of now. That's kind of what I want to do. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So in terms of coaching, do you have any potential opportunities that you're discussing, or how's that coming along?
Yeah. So right now I have two potential opportunities. One to be a running backs coach at a JUCO, and the other one to get one big thing I want to do is I want to get my master's. So to graduate assistant and be a receiver coach at a D2 school in Michigan.
Nice. Do you have family ties to Michigan, or is that just a place you?
Just connections through my dad. My dad's a high school coach, so just connections through him. They coached together, and then he ended up being the head coach over there. So
you came to San Diego State from Las Vegas in 2018. Same year Daniel Bellinger did, who's also from Vegas. Did you guys know each other or play against each other in high school?
Yeah, we did. He's actually my roommate too, all growing up, my freshman year and stuff. But we played against each other in football and basketball quite often. Like our schools were only 5 minutes apart, so a little bit of a rivalry right there. So I know Dan for a long time. He's a good friend, and yeah, we get into it with each other sometimes. I remember when I committed here first, and I was like, Dan, you got to come, man. Like we could be roommates and stuff. I was getting on him early, so
that's awesome. Sounds like you guys were living the dream.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, what do you think of Bellinger's prospects for the NFL draft?
I think he'll be extremely successful. Just I kind of seen the dedication he has and the hard work he's had. When he came in, in high school, we were pretty much close to the same height and weight. He was a little bit bigger still, but just to see all that weight he put on, like I remember we work out Monday through Friday, and then after Friday's list, he'd go back to the gym just at the recreational center and just lift more. So he's definitely got the work ethic and the body and the mindset, and I really think he'll make it. I think he's got everything mentally and physically to succeed at the next level.
That's great. And then you, going back to your high school days, you played high school basketball, and you were all league twice. Was there ever any thought that, you were going to go and be on the hardwood instead of out on the field?
Well, I did have a small Division II offer for basketball, but SDSU is kind of like SDSU for Division I football is a pretty big deal. And I think it kind of just attracted me more. Also, I felt maybe more talented. Or maybe just highly recruited in football, or kind of felt where my passion was. So that's kind of why I sought that out.
In your first 3 years at State, you caught 31 passes for 368 yards, but this past season you matched that total with 31 catches with 418 yards. Why was this past year more successful for you?
Well, I would say my sophomore year, I think I was on pace. I think I would have my best year, but I actually had a heart issue and I broke my hand. And I felt like I was just breaking out in that game where I broke my hand. And I think I just been dealing through some things health-wise that kind of led to, and like in fall camp this year, I had another little heart issue. So that held me out. But like I didn't practice for a whole week, almost leading up to the game. I only practiced 3 days before the game. And then I had to sit out that Thursday. So I think just a lot of health issues kind of led to that production maybe increase and maybe being healthy. And then also just the opportunity too. I think I got a lot more opportunities.
The Fresno State game was your highest yardage game. You had 4 catches for 105 yards, all in the first half. But you were shut out in the second half. So what made it so successful to when you're connecting with Lucas in the first half? And then what kind of changed in the second half? Did Fresno State, do some different coverages that kind of took the ball away from you?
Yeah. I think it's tough too, because I think majority of my catches in that game were almost out of the slot or a tight end position. We ran like a 10 personnel or before receivers, and I kind of would play the Y position in that. And I think they kind of adjusted to that towards half, but also I think just kind of maybe just how the game was called or just Fresno's adjustments. You got to give them credit. It definitely sucks losing to them more than almost anyone else. But I think just adjustments, and sometimes you open it up for others, and that's a good thing too, just to help others out if you run a route or maybe you're not necessarily the number one option. So
you just twice you mentioned heart issues. If it's too personal or whatever, no need to go into it, but could you just talk a little bit more about that and what you've been dealing with over the last few years?
Yeah. Well, I think that too kind of played a little bit of factor into my decision too. Certainly it's been frustrating to have to deal with them. And fall camp, I felt like this year was one of my best ones, and then I had to sit out. But I think BYU my sophomore year, I felt like I was having a heart attack, and on the field, like I started feeling lightheaded, and then like I never felt my heart kind of race like that before. And I don't know. Dan just caught a touchdown. Otherwise, I think I might have passed out on the field or something, because I wasn't going to pull myself out, because when you're in the middle, you can't. I don't know. Like just the athlete in me when I can't do that. So I remember coming out to the field and the trainers feel my heart, and they were surprised. And then the same thing kind of happened this year in fall camp. Just I felt it. I ended up getting a surgery for it, and they didn't find necessarily anything wrong. But then I felt it again in fall camp this year, and they gave me the tools how to deal with it. But that's kind of just the situation there.
So is that the touchdown that you were describing, was that like the last game at SDSU Stadium?
Yeah, I believe Carson Baker threw that.
Yeah.
Van. Yeah. That is the last touchdown there, right? I believe. So
yes. Yeah.
It might have saved my life. So
that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly, I mean, dude, so glad that like you're okay and that you were, were able to get all the things that you needed to get done and stuff, man. That's wow. How would you describe Hunky Cooper as a coach? And how much of an impact did he make on you and your time at SDSU?
I really can't say enough good things about Coach Cooper. He's basically the reason why. I mean, San Diego State's a great university and it's prime location. It was perfect for me. It was just far away from home, but just close enough. But he's like 90%. He's high up there. And the reason why I chose San Diego State, just kind of how he conducts himself as a person. And I know for me, I'm a Christian, and I think I really wanted to have a Christian coach. But even apart from that, just how you treat people, like he would care for you beyond football, which is something that is just really special. Like when my grandma died my sophomore year, he was like one of the first people to reach out to me. He sent over the receivers to check on me, and then he's just keeping tabs with you, making sure you're doing all right. So I don't know, he's like really like a father figure to a lot of us in the room, and he's just legit, and he's someone I kind of aspire to be like when I become a coach. And just I really can't speak highly enough of him. I mean, from his knowledge to football, that play that Tyrell scored in the bowl, that little post, he drew that one up, and he's like, this one's gonna hit, because they're in a too high shell, and the safety went down the dig, and then Tyrell's open. And I remember when Tyrell caught that, I was like, you drew that up. Like I remember telling us. So I really can't say enough about him, like systematic wise, but also as a person, he's top tier.
So to follow up with that, I mean, you just mentioned wanting to be to take what you learn from him as you go into coaching. Is there anything that you've really, really highlighted that you said, man, this is something I got to do because this is special?
Yeah, definitely. Coach Cooper, he teaches us a lot about football, but he also has a whole section that's just about life. So that's something that's really cool, that, he's using his experience and his knowledge to kind of show, like, give us life advice, really. And they're good things. Like, just there's so many good things. That's something I really want to carry on with me. But big thing that I learned from him is I want to make sure I care about people beyond their football player, and because you never know what people are going through. So just being there for them and loving them and supporting them, but also, getting on them when they need to pick it up. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just almost being a father figure for players and yeah.
Looking back to the season that just ended, the 12-win historic season. Obviously, you guys did not win the conference championship, which is the main goal, but still to win 12 wins for the first time. What will you remember the most from that season?
I don't know. I feel like we got robbed a little bit, because we got hit with COVID before, even those bowl games were canceled. We got hit a little early, and they ended up putting us in a hotel, because I live with Dan Bellinger and he got it. So they put us in hotel rooms. So I feel like we kind of got robbed out of that a little bit, but credit to Utah State. But I think the whole season is just memorable. Just kind of how I said, we kind of just pull it out. We kind of pull out a win. It's not always the sexiest, but I think really the camaraderie and the brotherhood that Coach Hoke and Coach Hall really help provide for us. But I think that's what makes it so special is just the defense picking up the offense, and then every once in a while, the offense picking up the defense, and special teams. And special teams is really cool because it's collective. It's both offense and defense. So much of our practices are separated. That's like one opportunity where guys get to, be on the same team almost. So I think just the brotherhood and the camaraderie is what made it the most special.
And looking towards the wide receiver room, this coming season, obviously Jesse Matthews and Tyrell Shavers are the kind of the known commodities from last year. But there's 7 guys, young guys, that are going to have a chance to kind of step in and, replace you, Kobe, Ethan, and BJ. Those are, Breon Penny, Philippe Wesley, TJ Sullivan, Mekhi Shaw, Darius De Los Reyes, Josh Nicholson, Ronald Gilliam. Can you give us kind of a quick scouting report on those guys? Who you think kind of are the top guys that can step up and fill in next year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of good guys in that room. I think Breon will be really special. I think I don't believe he played receiver prior to here, so he's really learned a lot and grown a lot. And I think his ability after the catch is special. Mekhi is obviously really talented. I remember in off season we do our runs, we do 60-yard shuttles. He'd win, and me and Tyrell would be like, "Hold up, like we're gonna go run next to him so he doesn't win," and he'd still beat us. So that would make us kind of mad, like not mad, but just competitive. So I think Mekhi is special. Darius is a great guy. He makes a lot of contested catches over the middle. And I think the young guys, Josh is really special, and both Philippe. I remember seeing them in fall camp and like, well, these guys, they'll be ready pretty soon here. And I think the room's in a good shape.
Max Olson from The Athletic, they did a re-ranking of like the recruiting classes. And I think San Diego State originally, was very low in the nation, but then they re-ranked them with all of the production that you had from the recruiting class that you came in with. Ranked them all the way up to 11th in the country. Why do you think that your group was excelled as much as it did?
I think a number of things maybe contributed to it. Potentially, I think SDSU was on a big rise nationally with Rashad Penny, that they're getting national notice that and maybe highlighted top recruits. But also, I think just the off-season program that Coach Hall kind of provides, and he kind of isolates the freshmen to start, and I think that really made us more of a special group because you go from high school to being like the star almost, just to going to SDSU, and you're trying to figure out kind of maybe what your role is, and him pushing us and showing us like kind of the Aztec way, and I think that's really what contributed to it a lot, and also just I don't know. You know how it always is. Like you always think your time's better than others. I think we just had a group of special guys. Really, we just got lucky. I think just with the amount of guys we had, and local guys, and also guys from maybe Vegas or Hawaii with Alma and stuff like that. So I think it was a good mix.
So there's this idea that San Diego State is going to get this new stadium. Have a little bit more money, be able to have a bigger recruiting budget. The atmosphere at Snapdragon Stadium should be more of an attraction. And as a result, there's going to be like kind of higher level recruits who are going to be coming in. But if that had been the case in 2018, maybe the 2-star recruits like Dan Bellinger or Cam Thomas, there's not room for them here. So how does San Diego State like continue to build that special group that is able to develop these players while also being able to maybe be in living rooms of more higher profile recruits? How do they balance those two things in your opinion?
I think the best way to possibly balance is really going after the type of guy you want. And that kind of doesn't necessarily result in star, but the type of guy they are on and off the field, how they do in the classroom, how they carry themselves. Are they skipping reps when no one's looking? Are they hardest worker on their high school team? And I think that's something that is really important. And I think that's something that we actually got really fortunate with in our class, that there's a lot of guys that, weren't just patted on their back the whole time, but rather just, put their head down and work. And I think SDSU kind of will balance that. I think they have a type of guy that they look for. Now I think you need a variety. Sometimes, when talent outweighs maybe on the other side, like you get a super talented guy, but maybe he's not as hard a worker. If you have a group of hard workers that are going to do it, they'll kind of pull them along. So he'll have to kind of follow. So I think balancing that is just the type of guy is really what it comes down to.
So we had a chance to catch up with Conor Mcbride just before we were talking to you. You mentioned you guys saw each other at the Arc earlier today. Yeah. What can you say about the kind of person, the kind of teammate he is? He's obviously has a reputation of being a very well-liked, fun guy. So what was it like hanging out with him?
He's my roommate too. I think it's really he's a special guy. He's kind of a little bit of maybe at times me, Dan, and Jesse's little stress relief. Sometimes we put our pressure onto him, or look at Conor and he kind of makes your day better. So I think he's just a guy that he loves SDSU, he loves football, and you see him show up every day and he's not complaining. And sometimes we might be complaining, so we kind of just look to Conor. He kind of balanced us out in that way, and he's a great guy, man. He's someone that you'd want your daughter to date, and he's someone you just want to be around. So that's just positive. He's not going to get too down, and he's also not going to get maybe too high. So it's just a good balance. So I can't say enough good things about him.
So are you ready for some rapid fire non-football related questions?
Ready to go.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? I'll probably go steak and baked potato.
Okay. Well, how do you like your steak done?
I like medium.
Nice. What about favorite movie or TV show?
Favorite movie? I don't know. I really like Star Wars. And I also like funny movies too. So Star Wars, and I'll say TV show is The Office.
Yeah, The Office has been very popular.
Winner. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Musical artist or group?
Oh, musical artist or group. I'll go with I like Playboy Cardi.
Okay.
Yep.
What about favorite professional athlete, either growing up or currently?
I was a huge fan of Jordy Nelson growing up. I love Jordy Nelson, but I also like Tom Brady. I think his story is just awesome.
Do you think he's going to unretire and come back again?
Nah, I think he might be done. He's pretty amazing to see what he's doing at 44. Is that how old he is? I think.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of rumors out there that he's gonna, ankling to come back later, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Last one, favorite hobby outside of football?
I love watching movies, and I like playing pickup basketball. And I would also say, I like eating.
Other than steak and baked potato, what else? What kind of other stuff do you like eating?
I like Alfredo, enchiladas, burritos. Can't go wrong. Sushi. I really like a variety of things.
So the big, the San Diego food question is, where is the best California burrito? What would be your answer there?
Good question.
See, I think I might be biased. The best California burrito, I don't necessarily know. I would say the best burritos are from Trujillo's for sure. At least around here, they're just undefeated. Just what they have in them, like wrapped in a quesadilla or taquitos in them, it's legit.
I went to Trujillo's before the basketball game last night, and I had the crunch wrap.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like a Taco Bell thing from back in the day, but they actually turned it into actually a really good item. So shout out to Trujillo's. It's a big basketball pregame staple for my buddies.
Yes.
So Elijah, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This is great. We look forward to seeing you as a coach sometime in the future.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Great job, man. Great interview. Thanks, brother.
Yep.
So Paul, we had a chance to catch up with Conor Mcbride and Elijah Cody. What were your main takeaways from our conversations with them?
Okay, so there's like a school of thought that says the main aim for humans is to experience beauty, to create beauty, to be able to kind of point out beauty when they see it without getting too sentimental. I think we stumbled upon something beautiful in these two interviews. To listen to their Conor's story, to listen to Elijah describe Conor, their friendship, and this 2018 class, I just thought it was beautiful. And it was a privilege to be able to facilitate, that discussion and to allow Aztec Nation to be able to get to know them. As far as the interview and the content of it, I think that is going to be as helpful of an analysis of the tight end and wide receiver room as you're going to get. I mean, I think we're all a little bit nervous about what expectations to lay on to Breon Penny, but I thought it was pretty exciting that Elijah was talking about the year that he's expecting Penny to have. And so there were others, man, but what about you?
Yeah, the camaraderie that the 2018 class in the wide receiver tight end room was evident, because especially Elijah, Conor, Daniel Bellinger, and Jesse Matthews, they were talking about how they were roommates, how they, worked out together, how they watched The Office or Friends together and things like that. It's just evident that they loved being around each other, loved playing for each other, with each other. And I think neither had this, huge college career and don't have the NFL aspirations, but both kind of learned how to be Aztecs, how to govern themselves the Aztec way. And now they're ready to kind of pass that down. Conor wants to be a teacher and Elijah wants to be a coach. So both of them have kind of created this path for themselves to go down and to give back to, students that they've learned from their coaches, their parents, and so forth. So those are just the main takeaways just from talking to those two and listening to their journeys.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point about them wanting to kind of pay forward what they've been given at San Diego State. And, there's so much, the storylines of college football right now has been NIL deals and, the big time programs being able to turn their boosters loose to go into living rooms of recruits that they want and basically just buy them. And the move away from college football being an amateur sport. And I think, to your point, seeing both of these young men who it was exactly what college football has been for years, right? I mean, he's a walk-on. He's not even getting scholarship money. And to have college football, San Diego State, and everything that's associated with it, it really is the best of what college football is all about and what's made college sports, for lack of a better word, pure compared to the NFL game. And it might not be that everywhere, but it definitely is at San Diego State. And I think that it's significant that we were able to kind of bring that story out and allow that part of college football to be seen, because it, isn't typically in this day and age.
Yeah, you mentioned Breon Penny. In prior episodes and in articles, we talked about how, the offensive line is young. The quarterbacks are all new, that there's a lot of, but the wide receiver room is also very young and inexperienced. And I don't think we've made too much of that yet, but talking to Elijah and talking to Conor and looking at it, outside of Shavers and Jesse Matthews, there's a lot of youngsters there that are going to have opportunities to shine. And, Breon Penny, obviously being Rashad's little brother, high expectations for him coming in here. And I think this year is going to be a big year for him. Big opportunity to have a big year.
I agree. And I thought that the tight end room, it's got to be exciting when they're talking about JP Murphy mossing people. I think that was the quote in practice, talking about Gus McGee as a natural, Jay Rudolph as a natural. And, Aaron Green, I listen, Aaron, if you're listening to this, it was Elijah that mentioned you last, not us. But for him to just
Conor.
go over. Sorry?
Conor.
Oh, it was. What am I doing? See, don't blame Elijah. It was Conor's fault. But being able just to hear that breakdown of, all of these young tight ends that with spring camp just around the corner are going to be able to see exactly what they have at that position. I thought that was pretty neat. Again, that's another young position where you don't have very many people. I mean, they have some upperclassmen, they got some juniors, right? They have that, but just like in terms of production, I think as an entire room, the tight ends have 2 career receptions. And so they're obviously going to need a little bit more production from that to be successful offensively.
Yeah, and we can't go without mentioning Hunky Cooper. Time and again, both you and I have spoken to past, current, and future players. And the love from the coaching staff that they've received is something that every player always mentions. And no disrespect to any of the other coaches, but it seems like Hunky is always at the top with the praise and the recognition that he gets from the wide receiver room and the players that he's recruited. And so I think that's important because it's a big part of being an Aztec is that camaraderie you build, not just with your teammates, but with your coaches that are going to last a lifetime. And so I think that shouldn't go unnoticed because he's definitely one of the people that when we talk to players, never anything but high praise for him as a man and as a teacher, as a coach.
Yeah. And I would really put that identity for the San Diego State culture, I would hang that on Steve Fisher. A year ago, if you remember at the Super Bowl, Tremaine Davis, one of his former players, was there doing the ceremonial coin flip. And, that we had the opportunity to interview Coach Fisher. And I asked him a question about balancing success on the court versus, the success that now Tremaine is doing long-term in his life and where that ranks in it. And he said, you have to be good on the court in order to stick around long enough in a place where you can have like the eternal reward that's off the court. And I think because he was successful in rebuilding the basketball program, it set a culture at San Diego State. And there hasn't been a ton of production from the wide receiver group. And at other places, you would say, oh, he's a really nice coach, but we got to win. We got to have more production. But at San Diego State, obviously getting all of these, hot shot recruits to be willing to block and do all the things that the Aztecs are asking for in their run game, but to play all the multiple positions on special teams, et cetera. It's in all those little ways that Coach Cooper, you can see, his hand on the field. And obviously Elijah was talking about that touchdown that he drew up in the bowl game. So I don't want to suggest that he's not successful on the field, but people would make that argument that, man, you need to get somebody in here who's going to, see more production out of the top line receiver recruits. And so I think it's great to see him get his due because as you said, time and time again, his name comes up as just being an amazing human being. And, it was great again, just to hear it again, because it's almost like a broken record, people just begging to be able to talk about him. So that's a great way to make sure you brought that up.
Yeah. Changing gears a little bit, we asked both guys about the athletic report, re-ranking the 2018 class, putting the Aztecs at 11th in the country, better than every other Pac-12 school. You had an interesting point about the differences between, recruiting and bringing in a 4 or 5 star recruit could have potentially hindered some of the guys who ended up becoming top of their class. Can you explain that?
Had been more successful in getting 3 and 4 star and 5 star recruits, they would not have had room potentially for Luke Barku, who, was coming from a JC, Castle Park, and then to a JC, and then, to State. They wouldn't have room for, a guy who is a 220-pound defensive lineman. I mean, you don't take those, but that's Cameron Thomas, right? You don't take a 220-pound tight end and expecting that he's going to turn into the 252-pound specimen that Daniel Bellinger is. You don't take a road grading offensive lineman from Eastlake High School who only has 2 stars, who does not look athletic enough and just looks kind of like, yeah, he's good in high school because look how much bigger he is than everybody else. But they take these 2-star guys because those are the guys that they can talk to. And what would have happened? People are wanting Snapdragon to open the door to the 4 and 5-star recruits, but they didn't have any of those, and they had the 11th most productive place. And I think the question is how do they continue to have that track record of development while also finding maybe access to guys that they had before?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you've got a team of 2 and 3 stars that overachieve consistently, and then you bring in a 4-star that's like the only 4-star. Maybe there's only 2 4-stars. It could be a different dynamic because that 4-star could come in with this ranking, right? This level of that. Oh, I'm ranked higher than you, and necessarily, I wonder what kind of dynamic that will play in how the Aztecs, field their program when you've got 1 or 2 highly recruited players that are above in recruiting compared to the typical players. I wonder how that dynamic would change, if at all, moving forward as well, because that could also play a factor in maybe a 4 or 5-star not wanting to come to a school where they would be the only 4 or 5-star player, and they would want to go to another school that has multiple 4-star players because they feel like they would not be kind of stand out and have these high expectations at a school like San Diego State. So it's yet to be determined, but that's kind of an interesting dynamic to also look at, for the future.
No doubt. And, we do also understand that these rankings, they're weird, right? We all know that they're kind of strange. And the idea of, a good example would be the safeties from 247 Sports. And there are on their rankings, they have, it looks like 28 players who are 4-star and above. So to be able to move into the 4-star, I guess, area for San Diego State, right? There's not that many guys that are going to be able to fit that bill. But then you go and you look at it and they have like 100 plus 3-star guys. And so it's like they're very, very splitting hairs for the topper tier guys. But then, you look at it for the lower tier guys and they're really that much worse than them, and, you and I were talking before, but there's a Southern California guy who's going to SC, 4-star recruit, Zamorian Gordon. And, he's the same height. He's 15 pounds heavier than Eric Butler. You watch their tapes and again, I didn't see all of them, definitely not an expert at it in any way, but just looking at their huddle tapes. And the only difference between Eric Butler and Zamorian Gordon's tape is that Gordon's has 10,000 views and Butler's has 500. And he was offered early by these big schools and Butler was offered late. And there's no reason why Butler shouldn't be a 4-star recruit. He played for one of the biggest schools. He did all that stuff. And then I think it also has a weird dynamic because I would argue Kyle Crum looks like a 4-star recruit. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, I think his recruiting would be a lot higher than it was for sure. But State's his only offer. And the reason is because he's not a starter when he's young, like, some of these young prospects that get the rankings, early. So he starts, but his first starting is in the COVID year. And so nobody gets to watch him. He doesn't get all the offers. State gives him his offer. He's committed that week. And how would the expectations for the quarterback battle be different if he had a 4-star? People would be looking for him to be the person who's going to unseat Burmeister and push Will Haskell. And people would be expecting it because he would have that 4-star. And it's a really super subjective thing that as we just saw, San Diego State beat the star system and turned out more NFL prospects, better college football players, even though they were the 76th ranked team at the time in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, the rankings and the star stuff, we all agree it's helpful information. It's good information. It's one evaluation metric, but it's not the end all be all, and it should, just a fraction of it. It's going to be really interesting to look back 4 years from now and look at the class of 22 and see where San Diego State ranks up, because I think the talent level is almost as high as it's ever been for a class for San Diego State. And who knows in 2026 if Max Olson re-ranks the class of 22, where San Diego State will end up.
To be seen, but it can't be a whole bunch better than the 2018 class.
That's true.
That honestly people were really down on. And they were like, oh, Rocky Long doesn't really care about recruiting. It's not really a big deal for him. And they were really down on his ability. But it could just been that they have a type of person. I think this was Elijah Cody's point. They have a type of person that they're looking for. They have a kind of kid who wants to come in there and work. Those are the kind of kids that they have to continue to be able to find, who are attracted to authenticity, who are attracted to being Aztecs. And they have to make sure they don't lose what's made them great to this point because they have access to, more living rooms than they had before.
Yep. That's going to do it for us on this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the interviews and the discussion. Make sure to give us a follow on your favorite platform. Recently, we've added iHeartRadio and Amazon Music to go with Apple, Google, Spotify, and Anchor. And we're also on YouTube. So whichever your favorite platform is, find us, follow us. You'll get notified every time we release a new episode. So you'll be up to date. You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison.